Y'all get ready for this week's Top 30. I'm Thomas Rhett, and you know me from... We'll play that song and talk about my new album as I count down this week's hits with Lon Helton of Country Air Check. Right now, here's Lon with the week's hottest song.
Well, thanks, Thomas. And our radio stations give the honor to Luke Bryan and the week's hottest song, Down to 1. But is Luke going to go up to number 1? We're going to find out a little bit later on Country Countdown USA. Each week, I'm joined by a top country star who helps me count down the hits. And coming to us from his home studio in Nashville is the ACM Entertainer of the Year, Thomas Rhett. How are you?
Oh, man, I'm good. How are you?
Good. Everybody well in the house?
Everybody's good now.
And you were telling me that the girls are back in school, so the educator, Thomas Rhett, has retired.
Yeah, the educator has left the building. I'm going to leave that to the professionals. So, yeah, thank goodness for that.
Well, we have a lot to talk about here today, along with your three girls. You made a big announcement recently about some new music coming.
Yeah, for sure. We've been working on this album, I would say, since the very beginning.
Cole Swindell leading off the week's Top 30 Singles Saturday Night. My co-host this week is Thomas Rhett. Of course, your current Top 5 hit is What's Your Country Song? I want to talk about that a little bit here and just kind of, how did you write this in terms of, did you guys just sit down and write out your favorite lines or favorite titles of country songs? Did you have like 100 or 200 of them and you then assembled them? I mean, how'd that go?
I remember when we put this vocal down, I was in Dallas in 2019, and I had some of my songwriting buddies there with me, and I'd had this title in my phone for a year called Where's Your Country or something like that, and I kind of got this idea from just kind of touring all over the U.S. and, you know, playing out in the middle of nowhere and playing in proper cities, and just kind of noticed that kind of wherever you live, everybody's got a little bit of country in them, whether they know it or not, you know. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where that idea stemmed from, and I think we wrote about 20 different verses for this song because obviously there's so many country songs that have inspired me over the years, and the very first line that we joked about putting in there was, are you heartbroken because you know that ain't your truck in her drive? Because I wrote this song with my dad. And we laughed, and then we started to go, actually, that's kind of awesome. Let's keep coming up with titles that we can intertwine into this story. And so I think there were 5 writers on the song. We all just started saying different song titles and somehow crafted it into what it is today.
Yeah, I just love all the country songs that you check in here. Anyway, it's the song we're talking about. My co-host Thomas Brantley Gilbert up 1 to number 28 with Hard Days. Thomas Rhett along as my countdown co-host this week. And, a few weeks after you won the ACM Entertainer of the Year award, Maren Morris was in here as my co-host. And she told me that she wanted to apologize to you.
I need to reach out to him because it was such an awkward moment for me. Okay, so here is what happened. I was in the press room right after I had won, and all of the journalists are on a screen talking to me. And I was like, I don't know who won Entertainer. I think they're probably going to announce it soon. And she just, I think, overheard Carrie, and she was like, oh my gosh, Carrie just won Entertainer. And I saw her, and she was so sweet, and she was holding her award, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. And then Thomas Rhett pops his head out of the dressing room, and he's like, what about me? He was kidding, but in my mind, I didn't realize that they had tied.
Oh, wow.
I need to I out to him and clarify.
Yeah.
What happened?
Dude, yeah. I remember that so vividly too. That was because I didn't know that side of Maren's story, because when I walked out of the press room, they obviously wouldn't let me and Carrie do interviews together. And when I walked in the hallway, I just saw Maren congratulating Carrie, and I was just being funny, and I said, thanks, Maren, thanks for complimenting me as well. And I think I just caught her way off guard, and it was a very awkward backstage experience, just because everyone's wearing masks. You can't really tell who anybody is. You don't really get to go watch what's happening out in the audience. So when you come backstage and you see people with trophies, you're like, I have no idea what you just won.
Carly Pierce up a couple to number 26, Next Girl. Thomas Rhett is my countdown co-host this week. As I mentioned at the top, you're the reigning ACM Entertainer of the Year, although I guess you might have the shortest reign on record, because it was supposed to be last April, was delayed until September.
Yeah.
And now the next show is coming in April, so it's
very short time to get prepared for the next one, Yeah, that was wild. I actually just got my physical award in the mail for Entertainer of the Year, which makes it more surreal. You know, it's one thing to get up there and be able to win that award, you know, alongside Carrie Underwood, but when you actually get it in the mail and you get to hold it in your hand, it really makes it feel solidified, you know. And also to be nominated for that award again on this upcoming ACMs, it's pretty wild, you know. I'm not sure what they're basing Entertainer of the Year off of, since no one got to play any shows last year. But
really,
very, very just honored and floored to be nominated again in that category. It's something I've worked a very long time to be able to be in that category. And so it's a very, very humbling experience for sure.
And of course, not just Entertainer of the Year that you're nominated for, Male Vocalist of the Year, Song of the Year, and Musical Event for Be a Light. So that's a handful.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, man. Song of the Year, I mean, minus Entertainer, song is like my favorite category. And, you know, especially to be nominated in that category, not even for a song that I wrote for myself, but for a song that I wrote for Old Dominion a couple years ago called Some People Do. That's always been one of my favorite songs that I've gotten to be a part of, especially for another artist. And to get that song was nominated for a Grammy and now nominated here at the ACMs. It's really cool to see, you know, what a song can do, you know, I think when people are passionate about it.
Hang on to that for a second, because I want to come back and talk some more about the ACM Awards. And Jason Aldean up a couple to number 25, Blame It On You. Thomas Rhett along as my co-host this week. And I know that you recently celebrated your daughter Lennon's first birthday. Did you do the Southern tradition smash cake thing?
No, we didn't. So I think when Willa Gray turned 1 and AJ, we kind of have the same picture of all of them sitting in a high chair, and we just sit the whole cake right in front of them, and we just let them dive in for like 10 minutes. And Lennon just went face first into her cake. I was too busy laughing to capture that moment on the camera, but it's pretty cool. I hope one day we can get all those photos framed of all their first birthdays and get to put those up on the wall, because, man, it's just amazing to me. I mean, Lennon was born literally right before the country shut down last year in February. And you know, the common phrase of a parent, you know, the days are long and the years are short, has never rang more true than with Lennon. It felt like every day was a week, and then you get to them turning 1, and you're like, good grief, man, how did time go that fast? It's just crazy.
Oh, it really is. And before you know it, Robert once again at number 23, Settling Down. Thomas Rhett along as my co-host this week, and up next to the countdown is Dirk Bentley. I think he's set up shop in Colorado. Have you talked to him lately?
I have, man. We're actually going out there here in a couple weeks. Last year, I was supposed to go to Telluride, and then the shutdown happened. I remember the week before we were about to go to Telluride, the mountain shut down, and so my 30th birthday was spent, you know, just at home, and so we're going to do this. We're going to attempt this one more time as a 31-year-old to finally get back out to Colorado, and you know, me and Dirks have definitely planned on, you know, skiing and snowboarding together. So
the mountain's open.
Yeah, I mean, we went out there on a road trip this past summer, and Dirks and his wife Cassie took me and Lauren on a hike that was way too long for people that live in Nashville. You know, when you live in Telluride, your lungs start to adjust to that 9,000 foot elevation, and when you've been living in 400 feet, you know, Dirks and Cassidy are just sprinting past us on this hike, and so hopefully I can get back in the gym and train so I can keep up with Dirks when we get back out there.
Well, I know. Keith Urban along with Pink at number 20, One Too Many. Thomas Rhett's my countdown co-host this week, and you know, a lot of the folks who have been in here as my co-hosts have been talking about you. Lady A was just in a few weeks ago. When they were here, Hillary Scott said that she wanted to thank you.
Yeah, you know, well, not only did we get to just be invited to the party for CMA Country Christmas, that special with he and Lauren, he asked me at the beginning of this year to be a part of his song Be a Light, and so I just want to thank him just from the deepest part of my heart for inviting me to be a part of Be a Light. Just no timelier of a message in the times that we are in, and I found myself listening to that song just for the peace and encouragement that it brings, whether or not I was able to be a part of it or not. And so just Thomas, if you're listening, thank you so much.
Wow, thank you, Hillary. What a heart Hillary has. She to me is just the embodiment of the light, you know, and that was one of the things I was looking for in the song when I was searching for collaborators. You know, Hillary, Chris, Reba, Keith, these are all people that when I see them, I just immediately smile. When they walk into a room, the room gets lighter. And I think that's what I was searching for with this song, and especially Hillary. I've known her for a while, and her and Lauren have gotten to become pretty good friends. And when I asked all these people to sing on that song, it was an immediate yes. And it's amazing when stuff like that can happen so seamlessly, which makes you look back and go, that was the right choice. That was one of those songs that was just ordained. And when I put that song out, I had no intention of it ever making it on radio waves. I just knew that I wanted to say that message to people. And then I was super grateful for radio and all the platforms to think that was as special as I.
Host Thomas Rhett, a #1 from last year, that's Be a Light. And Thomas, as we head back to this week's countdown, up next is Kelsey Ballerini. And when she was in here as my co-host, of course, she talks a little bit about you.
I can talk a little bit about Thomas Rhett's new album.
Okay.
Whether he wants me to or not.
No, well, that's why we're here. Tell me about it.
Well, so I did a writing retreat recently, and the people that were there were working on his record, and Thomas and I are super close, so they knew that they could play some of the music for me, and I wouldn't talk about it on a radio show. But I will just say it's my favorite Thomas Rhett record that he's put out. The stuff on there is so country and so good, and I have to hype it. It's going to be amazing.
Man, thank you, Kelsey. I remember that pretty vividly. She texted me after that retreat there, and she said, "Thanks for making me want to can everything that I've written and start over again."
Oh, wow.
And I said, wow. I was like, I know that she didn't mean that, but I've said that to artists before all the time. I'm like, man, you make me want to quit. Every time I watch Chris Stapleton sing, I'm like, why do I even do this for a living?
Right.
And, especially when I hear songs that just floor me, I'm like, that makes me want to not release anything that I've written. And you know that you don't mean that, but you go, dang, that comment is so reassuring. Because I look at Kelsey as such an incredible songwriter and an incredible artist, and somebody that takes song picking very seriously. And so, man, I just appreciate that comment from Kelsey so much. And she's always been such a huge supporter of
Tyler Hubbard up a couple to number 18, Undivided. My co-host this week is Thomas Rhett, and I want to talk a little more about your ACM experience last September when you won the top award, Entertainer of the Year. Of course, because of COVID and everything going on, the whole show was done differently. No audience, 3 different venues.
Yeah.
And I know they kind of had to keep you around to get the award without telling you that you were going to get it.
Right.
So what did they tell you?
Well, you know what's funny, man, is I was on a month-long road trip with my family, and the ACMs happened to fall about 7 days before we were supposed to come home from a road trip, and my manager, Virginia, called and said, hey, obviously you're nominated for a couple things, like you should probably come back. And I remember flying back home. I was in Zion National Park in Utah, and I flew into Nashville the day of the ACMs and literally just kind of hung around backstage. And then when I walked into the building, there was the other Entertainer of the Year nominees, and when they called my name, I was like, holy crap, I'm so glad I flew back for this.
Yeah, really.
And then I woke up the next morning and flew back to meet my family in Utah, and it was just such a whirlwind. And I remember when I got back to Utah, my wife had kind of decorated the house, and she put on the front door of our cabin we were staying in, she wrote, "Welcome home, Entertainer of the Year." And it was just a really special couple of days, man. Like definitely a 48-hour period that I'll never forget.
It sounds like it. Quite the whirlwind trip, but all Break It Up was easy in the 90s. Thomas Rhett, along as my co-host this week, and up next in the countdown, the latest from a guy that you wanted to talk about, Jordan Davis.
Yeah, so I actually got to see Jordan a couple nights ago. Jordan came over, and it was really the first time I've gotten to hang with Jordan, and I got to know him a whole lot better than I have in the past. And we kind of share a passion for the outdoors and, being in the duck blind and something we plan on doing a lot this fall together. And yeah, man, just a sweet guy, and got to meet his wife for the first time. And it's always fun when you get to hang out with artists that are younger in their path than you are. Because it's neat sometimes to be able to give artists like Jordan just a bit of my mind, just a bit of advice and things that I've learned over the years, and even for Jordan to teach me a lot of things too. And so it was great to finally get to meet and get to hang out with Jordan.
That's pretty cool. That's a neat thing. Jump 1 to number 15. That's Hell of a View. Thomas Rhett is my countdown co-host, and through the years we've talked a lot about the fact that you are just a huge fan of Eric's.
Yeah.
Talked to him lately?
I talked to Eric about once every 2 months, and it's a very short text exchange every time, and it's usually me asking him to be a part of a song of mine. And you know what I love about Eric? Eric's honesty is something that is rare to find. And Eric always gives me the most amazing responses when I ask him to be a part of songs. There's actually a song on this Country Again side A called Growing Up that I texted Eric about being a part of, and it took him a couple days to get back to me. But I know that when it takes Eric a couple days to get back, it's because he's actually listening to the song and he's actually thinking about, could I be a part of this and why, you know? I remember he texted me back and he said, man, this is your song 100%. There's no way that I could narrate this with you and have it mean the same thing that you want it to mean. And I was like, dang, what a response. You know, I just appreciate that so much. And I've always been he's always been such a huge role model to me, not only as a songwriter, but as an entertainer and somebody that just sticks to their guns more than anybody that I know. And so for that, I'm super grateful to Eric. But it is my dream one day to do a collaboration with Eric. It's just going to happen in its own time, and it's probably going to be a song that we write together whenever that day comes. But yeah, just a giant fan of Eric, and can't wait for these 3 albums.
I'd pay to watch a songwriting session with you and Eric Church, I'll tell you that. But
We've written before. We've written one time before, and it was me and Eric and Luke Laird.
Wow.
And nothing really came of the song. But I think I probably need to get involved in one of his North Carolina retreats. I feel like that's where he feels the most centered as a songwriter. So Eric, I'm one phone call away, man. Just hit me up whenever you're doing that again.
Rascal Flatts up a couple to number 12, How They Remember You. Thomas Rhett is my countdown co-host, as we talked a few minutes ago. The 2021 ACM Awards coming up in about a month. And what else is in store for 2021? I'm sure, like everybody, we can't wait to get back on the road. Are you booked for anything yet?
Me and the band are finally about to kind of get back together and start rehearsing. We're playing a few nights at Billy Bob's in Texas.
Yeah.
In the beginning of May, which will be really my first show in front of real people since October of 2019. So once me and the band get back together, we're going to try to put together a new set with new songs from the new record, and how we're gonna portray our past hits, and I'm pretty nervous, man, but like nervous in a good way. I'm kind of getting like butterflies again, which I haven't really experienced in a long time. So it should be interesting. I posted this on my Instagram, but I told the fans that are coming out to Texas, I was like, y'all are gonna have to kick me off that stage because I don't know that I'm gonna be done playing after 2 hours.
Right.
There's just a lot to make up for, and I think that anybody buying a ticket to a show right now is just hungry for music. Literally, some lady on Instagram told me, she said, I don't care if you sing the alphabet, I'll be there. So,
I think everybody's wanting live music.
For sure. Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
What is it, May 6th, 7th, 8th, something like that?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, Billy Bob's is huge. I can't remember how many people it holds, but what are they doing under these new rules? How many people are going to be, how many tickets are they going to sell, do you know?
Well, I think at full capacity, Billy Bob's is like 4,500 maybe, or 5,000. Mm-hmm. So they're going to do a half capacity, and really being careful about where they seat people, and I think at what times are they allowing certain crowds in, and at what time can you leave, and I think that's what the Predators have been doing too. It's kind of like you get like an entry time, and then you get an exit time, so that there's not thousands of people walking through the door at the same time. So they're definitely taking all the COVID protocols very seriously, and I'm just glad that we get to go do something safe like that, and get to play music at the same time.
As we head back to the Rhett, current top 5 is What's Your Country Song? That's the as you mentioned, the first single from a new album that you just announced called Country Again, Side A.
Yep.
And you also told me that it's a double album, the first one in April, and the second one when?
I think probably between August and October. We're not totally sure on a date for that. But I wrote this song, Country Again, and Country Again is kind of where this whole concept of this album really began. I'd already written a bunch of songs for it, but Country Again kind of was the centerpiece of the album, and kind of was the song that intertwined the rest of these songs together. So, man, I usually am terrified before I put a record out, but for some reason, man, I have this peace about putting this record out that I've never had in my last 5 albums or my last 4 albums, and so I just couldn't be more excited to release this record.
And I'm sure a lot of people, including me, are going to be excited to hear this record. It's called Country Again, Side A, going to be available everywhere on April 30th. But here I want to go back and get a hit from your last album, Center Point Road. My co-host Thomas Rhett, along with John Party and Beer. Co-host Thomas Rhett and John Party, and number 1 from last year, Beer Can't Fix. Now, Thomas and I have been talking about his new album, Country Again, Side A, available everywhere on April 30th. And so, Thomas, if you name the album Country Again, what does that mean for the sound? Is it a little more country than in the past?
Yeah, I mean, 1,000%. You know, I mean, I still am a believer that you don't have to have fiddle and steel in a song for a song to be considered a country song. But those are 2 instruments that I haven't really used at all over the past 4 albums, you know. And I would say that this record is extremely fiddle, steel, mando, banjo driven, you know. We've still got our elements of rock and guitar and you know, a little bit of you know, production on the rhythm side and all that kind of stuff, but it is so much countryer than anything I've done over the last 3 or 4 albums. And I'm not ashamed at all of anything I've done musically in my past, but there was a point in 2019 where some of the things that I used to care about, I just didn't care about anymore. You know, there's fiddle and steel on, I would say, 85% of this album, and
wow.
you know, just things that I haven't done in the past, and just felt fresh and it felt new to me. Even though this is kind of what I was trying to do when I was 19, it just wasn't successful, and I think I branched off for a while, just chasing a bunch of stuff, and I think for the first time on this record, I wasn't chasing. I was just doing what was genuinely me, and it feels really good to say that.
And a reminder that Country Again, Side A, Chris Stapleton again at number 7. That's Starting Over. Thomas Rhett is along as my co-host this week, and I know that you're really good friends with Russell Dickerson, so I'm sure that you've talked to him since he had his son Remington, who was born last September. But have you got a chance to see Remington yet?
You know what's sad is that I got to see Russell 2 nights ago, and I have yet to meet Remington, which might be the worst friend move on the earth. But I remember when Kaylee was pregnant, you know, no one wanted to be around them just because of the fear of, you know, someone pregnant getting COVID, and then when they had Remy, you know, it's one of those things. When the first 6 weeks of having a baby, you don't really see anybody except people that are there to help take care of your kid, like your parents or something like that. And so, you know, and we got 3 kids, and I've told you this before, but when you have kids, it's really hard to visit your friends. You know, you really have to plan it out 3 or 4 months in advance to get to see your friends, because there is no such thing as, hey, it's 4 o'clock on a Friday, y'all want to come over? And you're like, well, I don't have a babysitter. I don't know how to do this. And so, you know, 2 nights ago was really the first time that I've gotten to see Russell in a very long time. And it's sad because we live 6 minutes down the road from each other. So it is on my list the next time we're both in town together to finally get to take my girls to get to.
Darius Rucker with last week's number 1, number 5 this week, Beers and Sunshine. Thomas Rhett is my co-host this week. We now come to your song at number 4. Because you wrote this song with your dad, did you have to talk him into including his song, That Ain't My Truck, or was he okay with that right away?
No, he definitely wanted That Glory. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
No,
right.
But I was, you know, my dad, man, he's such a history bank of just old music, you know. So there were so many references that it was just over our heads, because Dad was going 70s country music, but deep cuts on artists that I'd never even heard of before. And I was like, this is cool, Dad, but I don't think that the majority of country listeners are going to even understand what's in there now, much less some of these old ones that you're throwing in there. Right. So we had to do kind of a good job at mixing some current, you know, and some old, you know. We put Dixieland Delight in there. We put, you know, Daddy Let Me Drive, which is part of the very first line in the song. But we added even some Jake Owen song titles and some FGL song titles and Jason Aldean song titles. So we kind of had to make a pretty good balance of going old and new. So.
Well, you got some Barbara Mandrell, When Country Wasn't Cool.
It was just a really, really special song to write, and I knew we had a hit on our hands when it was finished. And I kind of always knew that it would be the lead single to this record, whatever this record was going to turn out to be, and it was, and can't believe we got a top 5.
Well, I think it's going to do even better in top 5, but it is number 4 this week. Parmalee and Blanco Brown up 1 and number 2 with Just the Way. Thomas Rhett's my co-host this week, and of course with the number 1 song in the USA belongs to Luke Bryan. And when he was in here a couple weeks ago, Thomas, he was talking about your winning the ACM Entertainer of the Year award.
I text TR the next morning after he got the ACM win, and I know he's been out there, like all of us, working hard. So I was very proud of him for his Entertainer of the Year award, and he goes about it the right way. Family guy, and loves on those babies, and loves on Lauren, his wife, and for him to be enjoying so much success is awesome to watch.
Yeah, man, he was actually one of the first people that texted me, besides like my mom and my grandparents. Luke texted me, and that was such a special text because I've looked up to Luke, literally since I was 18 years old. I saw Luke play, I feel like, at a stage on next to the tin roof on Demumbrian. I remember seeing him and Eric Church down there, and my dad has always been really close with Luke, and so I kind of feel like Luke was almost like a brother to me, and kind of like a guy that always looked out for me in this world, So Luke's always been a great encouragement to me, and I'll never forget watching Luke win Entertainer of the Year for the first time, just being like, I knew that was coming 5 years ago, and so hearing that from him is more special than he could ever know.
Yeah, pretty high compliment for sure. We're talking about Luke Bryan, and he's got the number 1 song. Luke Bryan is 26th number 1, down to 1. And there they are, the top 30 country hits in the USA as compiled by Country Art Check. We've been counting them down with Thomas Rhett, who must be really excited about these dates at Billy Bob's coming up.
I've never been more excited about a show in my entire life. It's almost like a residency in ways. Like, I don't know that I've ever played 3 nights in the same town.
Oh, wow,
before.
yeah.
Really just excited to get back together with the band and come up with what in the world we're going to do.
The new album, Country Again, Side A, is going to be out on April 30th. And we'll say to you, happy 31st birthday on March 30th a little early.
Thank you, Lon.
So
appreciate you.
You're on the backside now, buddy.
That's right.
The current top 5, what's your country song? Best luck with that. Best luck on the ACMs and the Grammys. And as always, man, it's just great to have you here helping me count down the hits.
Well, always a pleasure, Lon. Thanks for having me today, man.